I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us, we have, I'm catching a Wall Street expert on the fly. He has called the Clinton Foundation one of the biggest charities in the history of the planet. His name, and before I bring him on, let me give you a little bit of his resume. His name is Charles Ortel. He's serving as manager partner of Newport Value Partners, established in 2007, provides value-added research to executives and investment firms. He has a huge, deep Wall Street career going back to the 80s and 90s. He has done global financing, global things with Wall Street and finance around the planet. He started looking into the Clinton Foundation because he says there might be the kind of people he runs into might have $10 million to invest into a foundation. They sure don't want to invest into something that could be a fraud. Let's go ahead and bring him on. He's Charles Ortel. Charles Ortel, thank you for joining us today on the fly. I know it's a funny shot. You're in there in the New York Public Library, but thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Thanks for having me on, Greg.
Well, you've called the Clinton Foundation one of the biggest charity frauds ever. I think you may have said the world. Tell us about the Clinton Foundation. What do you think the Clinton Foundation is? And I want to tell you, you're not alone. Before we go on, I just want to say that anybody that thinks that Charles Ortel, who's a private individual, private investment guy who uses his skills, we just had James Kellstrom. He's a former assistant FBI director, and he said on television, quote, that the Clinton Foundation was a huge criminal conspiracy. Charles, what do you think about the Clinton Foundation?
Well, when you look at any foundation, the Clinton Foundation in particular, you have to check and see what its authorized tax-exempt purposes are. And because this entity raises money from the public continuously, as we're having this interview, they're raising money. They have to actually be very specific. And their authorized tax-exempt purposes stated in their application, which is dated on the 23rd of December 1997, were just to be a presidential archival facility in Little Rock and a related research facility. They never have been authorized, as far as I can tell, from the public filings that need to be out there so everyone can look at them. They've never been authorized to do such things as fight HIV AIDS, fight climate change, convene meetings in New York, set up these various initiatives. None of them has actually been validly authorized, which means that they have been raising money on the basis of false and materially misleading public filings, and they've been doing it using the mail, using the internet, using telephones, all of which is a federal crime.
Wow, make sure you held yourself in the middle. You're saying that their foundation never was really a 501c3 for the purposes, that they're saying that this has never been a 501c3 that like the American Red Cross or whatever. Is that right?
Well, it was a 501c3 for the narrow purpose of being a presidential archive and research facility in Little Rock. What I'm saying is that they never got authorization from the IRS to pursue international purposes, and they never got authorization validly from the IRS to convene meetings for the Clinton Global Initiative, to fight obesity, to do a bunch of other things that they say they've been doing. And why does this matter? The reason it matters is the IRS generally very suspicious about charities because they're the perfect vehicles for fraud if they're not controlled properly, if the trustees aren't independent, if they don't have real audits, if they don't make truthful filings concerning what they intend to do and what they have done, then while the money that comes towards a charity can simply be put in people's pockets and no one will ever know the difference.
So, Charles, how much money are we talking about that the Clintons have raised?
Well, what the Clinton Foundation itself has declared that it's raised is more than $2 billion, $2 billion and change. But because this foundation has never had a real audit, they have had what masquerades as an audit, but something that doesn't comply with the strict accounting regulations with which I'm very familiar. No one actually really knows how much money they've raised in the main foundation and all the surrounding initiatives. One related initiative is the effort to help people in Haiti after the earthquake. There, Bill was made special UN envoy to Haiti in April 2009, and there was a disastrous earthquake in 2010 January. The Clinton-Bush joint venture charity has raised about 100 million or so, around 100 million. But in addition to that, there's something called the Interim Haiti Relief Recovery Commission, which Bill and a former prime minister of Haiti co-chair. That entity may have raised between 10 and 14 billion dollars. Nobody really knows what happened to that. Bill has served as co-chairman of honorary chairman of the American India Foundation. He hasn't disclosed that in the Clinton Foundation filings. There, it is estimated that they may have raised $1 billion doing that. They have taken, they've been affiliated with the Global Fund, which that entity has raised on the order of $50-60 billion. So when you start adding up all the affiliated entities, you're getting close to $100 billion.
Wow, that is absolutely stunning to me. $100 billion of money drawn in. They say it's $2 billion, it's $100 billion. And they've never really been set up to collect any of this, according to you. Why isn't the FBI cracking down on this? This is an obvious, huge, as the former assistant FBI director Kallstrom said, a huge criminal conspiracy. Why in the heck are the FBI not cracking down on this?
Well, I think one of the reasons is I wrote a story back in last year that got this started, called with so many red flags, why isn't the IRS auditing the Clinton Foundation? That's March 16th, 2015 on Breitbart. And, I think part of the reason is that unfortunately members of the Republican Party are involved in this, not necessarily in the same way, but the Bush family, Mike Huckabee, others are tied to these various entities. So it's a bipartisan problem, and it's so embarrassing. I mean, when you look at this, when you think back to what is alleged to have happened starting in March of 2010, when the Justice Department and the IRS may have aggressively gone against conservative Tea Party charities and people who were trying to become charities that had conservative leanings, when you look at the way in which they were prosecuted and persecuted, and you contrast it with the ways in which these Clinton Foundation entities have been allowed to operate without being punished, it's impossible to argue that of recent years that the scales of justice have been evenly balanced as concerns right-leaning and left-leaning people. And when you open up this can of worms, what you're opening up is a domestic political scandal. But in addition, one major scandal that is global in scale is that global governments have given a lot of money to the Clinton Foundation, and their records do not square with the Clinton Foundation filings concerning how much money the Clinton Foundation believes it's received. And so in short, these governments have sent far more money towards the Clinton Foundation than it appears show up in the Clinton Foundation books.
Do you think FBI Director Comey, when he was asking Congress, are you looking into the Clinton Foundation? He said, I can't answer that, which makes you think maybe there's an investigation. Do you think that the whole upper echelon of government is corrupted and they're never going to do anything about this? This is massive fraud and corruption. Both parties, the highest levels of government. Do you think that there's any way they'll ever have an investigation and take people to jail and shut this thing down?
Well, I can tell you categorically that I know of one state investigation that has been opened, and I'm trying to get other U.S. state investigations open, and I'm going to be doing my level best to get international investigations open. And the reason I'm trying to do that is that under our system, this president, any president...
center yourself up now. Center yourself up. There you go. Go ahead. This system, any president, go ahead.
Any president cannot pardon state or foreign crimes. You can pardon federal crimes, but not state or foreign. So my focus has been to convince U.S. states and foreign governments to do the work that the IRS and perhaps other branches, the FTC, have not yet done. In addition, I have reached out to Marsha Blackburn, who is a wonderful congressperson from Tennessee. She actually likes to be called Congressman. And she just recently issued a letter that was co-signed by, I think, close to 70 congresspeople, demanding investigations by the FTC, the IRS, and the FBI of this Clinton global charity fraud conspiracy. And I think it's really important. One reason is when your listeners and viewers think about this, Americans are very generous. When there are problems, particularly disasters, we reach into our pockets. We don't ask whether the charity is run by Democrats or Republicans or independents or atheists or whatever. We just think about the disaster and how we can help. And it's actually the case, I wrote about this on April 20th, 2015 on my site, A lot of reports at www.charlesortel.com that are there free of charge. It is the bottom 80% by income that are the most generous in this country when it comes to charity as a percentage of their income. So around the country, many people who don't have the training that I have and others have to look at these financial statements and spot the defects, spot the facts that none of these financial statements, none of these filings are compliant with the applicable laws. It's these type of people who take money out of their hard-earned paychecks, out of their savings, and fall for the sob stories that are replete in the Clinton Foundation marketing materials. And they're getting ripped off. And that, frankly, upsets me.
Go ahead, Senator. Just make sure you keep yourself centered, because I'm almost done. Thank you for doing this on the fly. I know you've ducked into the New York Cove, the New York Public Library. That's why this looks the way it does. But thank you for doing this. So you're talking. This is probably $100 billion criminal conspiracy. That's what the one James Kallstrom said. So you think it's $100 billion global, not initiative, but criminal conspiracy? Is that correct?
I absolutely do, and I think that it's possible Kallstrom may have gotten that number from my work, but
no, we're hearing this the first time. Kallstrom said it was a huge criminal conspiracy. That was his quote. But you think it's $100 billion huge criminal conspiracy?
I do indeed, and I think it's a disgrace. To put that number in perspective, depending on how you look at the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme, that was only, whether you look, it's either 40 or 60 billion, depending on how you look at it. This is 100 billion, maybe more.
Well, I got to tell you, Charles Ortel, I want you to come back out with updates. That state you were talking about is Ohio, correct? They're doing an investigation into the Clinton Foundation, correct?
I believe the state of Ohio indeed has opened an investigation.
And your website is totally free of charge, all kinds of information on there, and you're just doing this as a matter of public service. You don't want people to give their money away to basically fraudulent entities, correct?
Absolutely not. No, I feel that one of the things that makes this country exceptional is the charitable spirit. Last night, I believe Eric Trump, who runs a charity, made the point that the way we will be judged in time is over how charitable we were. Charity is a noble thing, particularly when you do it for no recompense. And the Clintons are out there holding themselves out as if they're charitable philanthropists, when in reality, I argued starting last April 2015 that they are actually Robin Hood in reverse. They are stealing from the poor to reward the rich, and I find that reprehensible behavior.
One last thing while we're on, how much money has actually gone to charity, and how much money is basically is Robin Hood in reverse? It's
impossible to tell from the filings. Impossible to tell.
But you're not saying much of the money has gone actually to charity.
Again, it's impossible to tell from the filings. What you're supposed to be able to do when you look at a filing, for example, one of the biggest expense items in the recent period in the Clinton Foundation is for pharmaceuticals, supposedly fighting HIV Aids. If this were a well-run charity, what you would do is you would provide a detailed breakdown of what pharmaceuticals by type were purchased at what prices and at what values were they given away by whom in which countries. There's none of that disclosure. You don't know if that pharmaceutical number is completely made up or not. There's no way of telling, and the auditors have never done their work. So that's why I say this is a textbook case study in global charity fraud. It needs to be exposed as such. It needs to be held out and remembered as an example of how you do not run a charity.
I got to tell you, Charles, I'm sorry that the video didn't look, great. I know you're off center and you're kind of, using your laptop to use this. But listen, man, the great information. People will love it. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day and doing this interview on the fly in short notice. Thank you, Charles Ortel. Once again, and your website is charlesortel.org?
.com, and also I'm on Twitter at Charles Ortel.
We'll put up links for all that. Charles Ortel, thank you for joining us today, and I hope you come back. Thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Anytime, Greg.